I was still living off unemployment at this time. I was still collecting it and going through. And really, I struggled at the very beginning, like to get one client, like just to get the very first client that I was going to get. I was going out knocking on doors, talking to everybody, talking to people that had 2 computers, people who had 25 computers. I was talking to all of them, just like, I just need some money coming in.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Empower and Elevate with me, Marc Thomas. In today's episode, we have a guest who is an incredible businessman, a cybersecurity master, making the world more secure one business at a time. He is also an author and an educator of educators in several countries, including those in Taiwan and Saudi Arabia. He knows when to hold them and he knows when to fold them. Please welcome the chief cook and bottle washer, the CEO of IT Haven, Paul Havens. Welcome, Paul.
Welcome. Excellent introduction. I love it. You got my poker in there. You got my trip to Taiwan and Saudi Arabia. That's excellent.
Well, I want to definitely hear more about those as we go. For sure. So let's talk about some of that. Let's get into some of the educator of educators.
Right. So in my previous job, when I first got into IT, I worked with a company called Marcraft, and they sold the trainers to ITT Tech all over the U.S. Okay, and so I was responsible for like repairing the boards that they couldn't fix on site at ITT Tech. They send them back to me, and I was the one that was soldering things on the board and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
As that company grew and I grew, they got into these middle school trainers and high school trainers where they taught computer-aided design, computer-aided music, robotics, and like little 2-week courses that students would go through. And then that evolved to across the U.S., high schools would get rid of their shop classes and would put in these technology classes. So I had to actually fly across the country in the U.S. and train the old shop teachers how to teach technology on computer-aided design and computer-aided music and robotics and all this stuff and laser technology. It was great. It was a great time. It was fun. The teachers were willing and really wanting to learn how to teach their students the best without knowing the technology.
Yeah, I was curious when you first started talking about shop teachers and technology. I'm like thinking, gee, that sounded like that would have been a struggle getting them to learn the tech, right? Because you're saying they were obviously willing and wanting to learn.
Right. And the beauty of those modules at Marcraft was that the students just followed along with the book, and the teacher didn't really need to know the technology unless they just had to know how to get through the module and what they were teaching them in the book, right? So the key came is if anything broke in the module, that's where that would come in, and we would actually service their help desk on that too. So that's kind of where I first got into service.
So you're saying if they ran into an issue in a module, the teacher then would reach out to a help desk to help get them to help the student through whatever problem they were having.
Right. To figure out if the problem was the actual device or if they were actually just doing something wrong.
I see.
So we'd have to figure that out. And if it was the device, and we'd, have them ship it back, we'd get it repaired and ship it back to them, that kind of stuff. So we were really on the vendor level of repairs and service rather than what we do today.
Okay. And put a timeline to that. What year were we talking? We were doing this.
That was 92 to 2000. So actually 92 to 2003. So 11 years I was doing that.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For the first 4 years of that, I was really just a bench technician, soldering on boards, repairing things as they came back. And then the guy that was managing me moved on, and they moved me into the service manager position of that company. And that's when I started really going and teaching everybody, and they figured out that I could actually talk in front of people and sound intelligent.
Well, wonderful. I mean, obviously, that's a huge part, helping the educators, educating the educators, right? They were educating the students. that says a lot, especially for that period of time. You said 92 to on, or 11 years,
Yeah,
that was
2003.
outside, years. I'm assuming they were high school level at that point type of modules. That was the focus is high school.
Middle school and
Middle school
middle
too.
school and some high schools out there, but mostly middle schools.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking back to my middle school years in shop class, making a treasure chest or something, or something to hang your coats on. I mean, it was a lot different. It had a heart in the middle.
Yeah.
A couple
They're getting
pegs.
rid of that. Focus technology, So, yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And so with that, so was that your first experience or exposure to technology?
Well, I went to college for industrial controls. That's not my degree. What is it? Industrial controls and automation, I think, is my 2-year degree, my AS degree.
Okay.
And so that's where I learned about electronics and things to do there. I was planning on going out in the field and, wiring things and like making conveyor belts run and all that kind of stuff. Ended up not liking that work. Actually, I went out and I did the electrician work for a little bit and joined the union and did it for a little bit, and I did it for about 6 months, and then that was an in between. So I started at Marcraft at 92, left for 6 months in about 95, 96 to go pursue the electrician thing. Figured out I really didn't like it. And that's when they let go of the service manager and they hired me back as the service manager back at Marcraft. So
I see.
So that's what happened. And then from there, Marcraft actually started writing CompTIA A+, Network Plus certification books. So they
gotcha.
focused on changing to certifications in the IT industry. And so that's where I really learned IT is at that point. It's like that was actually my college of certifications. That's where I got A+, Network Plus, Server Plus, Security Plus certified. That's when I did it way back in, late 90s, early 2000s when CompTIA first started existing. So, yeah.
So before we step into the CompTIA days and that aspect, talk to me a little bit. What was it about the electrician part that you talked about the industrial controls part? What is it that you didn't, obviously 6 months, what is it you didn't care for about that? What didn't appeal to you?
The work ethic of being in a union, it was weird to me. There was a job to get done and they just, it seemed like most of the people there were they were just getting through the day. They were working 9 to 5. They were just oh, I got a 15-minute break. I'm going to take it. Oh, I got a half-hour lunch. Well, I gotta walk 15 minutes to the lunch shack. So I got to start 15 minutes early, walk to the lunch shack to take my half an hour break and then walk back. So they're really taking an hour break, and then they get mad when the supervisor said, oh, well, if you're going to do that, you're taking your lunch break where you're at in the building. You're not walking to the shack. And so stuff like that just happened. It was more of an attitude, not the job itself.
Okay.
If it was just doing the job, that was fine. It was more of the attitude of I just decided I couldn't be a union worker. Not anything against union workers. I think they're great. I think they did a great job in our country at the time that they were needed. It just wasn't for me. I was more ambitious. I wanted to get something done. I wanted to go to the next level, and I didn't want to stop and just wait, and that's what happened. And as a union worker, I couldn't stop and say, I couldn't keep there working during a 15-minute break. I had to take it with everybody else at the same time. Otherwise they would rag on you and not let it down. Right. So it was weird. It was a weird attitude. No, you can't keep working. You got to stop. And it was for me that just rubbed me the wrong way. It might've been the crew I was with. I don't know. It was only 6 months. There might be different crews that are great that don't do that. I don't know. But like I said, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And I just went back to this job and then my career took off from there in a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously no regrets with exploring more of that in a different scenario or a different environment. You just kind of said, hey, no, this isn't for me. And I've heard stories and I've seen that. I've been in environments that, well, you can't touch anything because, that's union work or, they have to have different people, for every little role. And it's like going, what do you mean? You ever seen her? You can do that. Like, nope, not my job. It's like, I'm all about getting things done. So I can understand that
Right.
or relate with the whole, like, if I'm on task or I'm making good progress, I'm going to continue. I might skip my lunch, right? I mean, as business owners, what we do today, I mean, I'm sure we skip meals all the time. At least I know I do.
Yeah. The other thing about that period in my life is I was in my 20s, right? So like I wasn't about ready to start a business and like stop all my other extracurricular activities for what it takes to be a business owner at that time. Even though I was telling my mom at the time, like one of these years I'm going to make $1 million in 1 year. You just wait. I'm just not ready to do it yet. Right. Like I always knew that I was going to be a business owner at some point. It's just, I wasn't ready. I was out playing softball, hanging with the guys, doing that stuff and enjoying my 20s. Right. So I didn't have the greatest work ethic. Even though I was in the union and I didn't think they had a good work ethic, I thought it was worse than mine. But at the time I was like, I still wasn't ambitious about my career yet. I was just like, I'm making enough money to get by to be able to take the trips I want to do my softball stuff and do all that stuff. So at that time in my life, that was good for me. And then when I left there, that's when I decided like I was ready to do something with my career. So. Yeah.
Well, and I guess I wouldn't hold that against anyone. You're only 20s in your 20s, you're only 20s once, or you only have your 20s once. You might as well do, experience some of those things and do it while you're young and you can. Obviously at our ages today.
In our 20s too, right? So
What's that?
We always made mistakes. So.
Big mistakes.
We made plenty of mistakes in our 20s too, right? So we always make mistakes. You learn from them and move on, right? So
we sure do. So you said you moved on. You started getting into the CompTIA piece and getting into that, obviously, education piece. Now, what role did you have with the testing aspect or educational piece with CompTIA?
So with CompTIA, for the books, we had an author that was writing most of the books.
Okay.
For A+, Network Plus, all that stuff. And I was writing all the lab books to go along with that, like writing down the procedures on how to do this, on how to do that, getting the screenshots in the lab books so that they can go through and work these lab procedures. Because it wasn't just a book; it had a book and a lab book and a CD that goes with it. The CD was all the testing questions that were close to what the CompTIA questions were. Okay. And so I was responsible for writing the lab book for the most part, with collaboration from other people in the company, of course, like graphic design artists, all that stuff. But I was the one putting the procedures together and doing all that and getting through every lab that they wanted to do. They would just tell me what the lab wanted to accomplish and I would write the lab, right? So that's what I would do.
Wow.
And then as it moved on, because I was the one doing the lab books and making it, I was the most technical at the company. When they started selling these programs to high schools to be A+ certified high school they tried to sell them to like VOTEC places that multiple high schools could go to, that kind of stuff. I would go out there and I would train the teachers on how to teach the A+ book and what the lab book would be about and like how they would get through it. And really I also assessed what their knowledge was and whether they needed to, one, go through the book themselves, right? First, like to learn it all and actually do everything. I mean, because that's how you learn, right? And really teach them the course themselves, like be there for a week and go through the whole course with them and teach them how it would go and how it would all flow together and what I, as a teacher, which is what their role was going to be, was responsible for, right? So I would spend a week with them and teach them how to teach A+. Some of them, again, some of them got converted from shop teachers, so some of them didn't have any technology at all. So their A+ was their only knowledge. So that was always fun.
Teachers play obviously a huge and important role in our society in educating our youth. My interaction with teachers and from a technology standpoint in teaching new technology and K-12 deployments across the state of Ohio, I typically find when I get a classroom full of teachers to teach them, I usually had a lot of struggles. were kind of for me, some of the worst students. But for you, it sounds like more one-on-one, they actually, were picking this up and you were teaching them and be able to pass that on to the students.
Yeah. And I teach them tips too, right? Like you're going to come in and you're going to have these kids come into your class. You're in high school now.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids grew up with technology. You're going to find one or two that are going to know more than you do, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's just going to happen, right? So I want you to promote them, right? Like bring them in. They're the ones that help all the other kids out, right? Like, and if they can't figure it out, they come to you and you try to help them out from there, right? Like make it so that they're feeling useful as they know this technology. You see that they have this bright spot for them. And it'll give them a sense of ownership of the class, right? So they will like really appreciate that and come to your class more. So I really like, as they were shop teachers, I really like encourage them to have like an aide or two in every class that was really the ones that were troubleshooting, right?
Okay.
So they weren't doing the troubleshooting. They had the aides doing the troubleshooting. And if the aides couldn't figure out, then they would figure it out, right? Or then they'd call us or whatever would happen from there.
So you kind of find those couple individuals in each class maybe that were above the rest as far as their knowledge, experience,
right.
and ability to pick things up and kind of promote them to be the aide to help everyone else and help the teacher as well.
Right, right. I try to really like figure that out, right? So like from the get-go. Like, of course, the first couple of weeks, you're not going to know, but like when you first start doing the testing, you'll see the ones that are just getting it and they're not even trying in class because it's just second nature to them. But you gotta challenge them by teaching the other people, and keep them engaged too, right? Because if you don't engage the ones that just know it, they're just going to cause disruption instead. So you got to make them engaged in the class. Yeah.
Wonderful. So
I was the one that caused disruption when I was a kid. So.
Oh, were you? Me never. Nope. I didn't get permanently expelled from a school district. No, that never happened.
Yeah.
So as far as teaching the teachers, as far as when it came to the CompTIA and the A+, was that nationwide? What kind of, I guess, travel was involved there?
Yeah, that was
what kind
nationwide.
Of impact did your footprint?
And so I think you're alluding to, why did I go to Taiwan? Why did I go to Saudi Arabia?
Let's get there too, right? Where did that come in? Because that sounds...
the Saudi Arabia was the middle school trainer where we were doing all the technology stuff.
Really?
That was Taiwan. Sorry, Taiwan. I said Saudi Arabia. I went backwards. Taiwan was the middle school trainer stuff.
Okay.
And so what we did is the company actually sold it to actually a museum in Taiwan, and all the kids would go to the museum and see everything in the museum. And this technology exhibit would be something that they would work their way through and do what interested them.
Fantastic.
Right? And so I flew over there to install everything, including the desks and everything that they went on. We sold them everything. It was a white glove experience. They bought it and the desks appeared and everything, chairs, everything. We did everything.
Nice.
And so I flew over there and did that. And one of the people that I worked with was actually from Taiwan. So she was the one actually speaking, and I was like, she would interpret everything I said because I can't speak the language. And so, but
there's two of us.
Yeah. But I did learn that that when they salute you in Taiwan, you finish your glass. It's not just a cheers and that's it. You cheers and finish your glass. So I learned to always order the 8-ounce glass instead of the 16-ounce glass, and go from there.
Understandable. So, the modules part, that's what we were talking about, setting up the shop teachers and converting them from shop over to the modules and technology.
Yeah.
And that was before the CompTIA piece. But then, so same thing with Saudi Arabia. Was that modules or was that something else?
Saudi Arabia was actually, we were still doing the ITT trainers and stuff. They actually bought the ITT tech trainers and stuff like that. And so I went over there as the technician. I wasn't teaching on that one.
Okay.
We had another guy that was in depth into the ones and zeros of the ITT tech trainers. These are the old 8088 machines, like the motherboards. I mean, and stating my age, right? Like, so the very first computers that ever came out, um, we would teach them how to do it, how to insert faults into the motherboard so that the kids could actually find faults on what's going on in the motherboard and all that kind of stuff, which today is irrelevant because we just replaced the motherboard, right? Back then we would fix the chip that had the problem. It was a
Yeah.
lot different.
Today we just replaced the whole
But that's what
computer.
we did. We went over there and yeah, this guy taught and I said a few words and we traveled and saw the countryside. I mean, it was a great experience to go get to do.
I
It
bet.
was very interesting. Yeah.
Out of your travels with Taiwan and your experience in Taiwan and Saudi Arabia, is there anything today, all these years later, that stick out? That that one memory of visiting and something you learned, short of the glass and drinking the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which that would be a hard one to learn. You might pay for that.
Yeah.
Anything else that
Yeah.
sticks out for
Pay for the
you?
first day. You remember after that.
Yeah. No, I was curious in those journeys,
Saudi
though.
Arabia, so Saudi Arabia is known for the desert and the sand and all that stuff, right? So we actually traveled to a mountain area that was actually very green and had monkeys on the road and all this stuff. So it was very interesting. The other thing that I learned about there is that most of the Saudi Arabians, they don't work. I mean, they really don't. They go to school and they have their family and they have their wealth, and all the Egyptians come over and do most of their work for them, right? So they hire all the Egyptians to do work, and that's who's working in Saudi, right? It's like the families themselves that are Saudis are actually very rich from all the oil. There's not too many of them that aren't. And so it was very interesting to learn that culture and all that stuff. And also, like when you're traveling to Saudi Arabia, and they say that if you bring alcohol or drugs into this country, it is punishable by death, and you have to sign
Oh,
that
wow.
before you get to go. So yeah,
Not messing around. Not messing around at all. That sounds severe.
No, it is a very dry
Yeah.
country.
Wow. So, you mentioned Egyptians as far as work. Obviously, some of our Filipino team have shared with us that a lot of times they also hire Filipinos that will travel to Saudi Arabia and work over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's
I know there's some in Dubai. I was talking to some there.
yeah, very interesting. So yeah, I mean, obviously talking to individuals that have got to experience other cultures such as those is always very intriguing to me. It's like going, oh my goodness, and I'm always naturally curious about other cultures and those experiences and hearing from others, and whether that's Taiwan, Saudi Arabia, those that are traveling to. A gentleman I know just got back from Indonesia where he was doing some diving, scuba diving. And, to hear the stories or going to Africa and hearing about these safari adventures and it's really cool. There's a big world out there to explore and learn from. And I don't see enough of it from my chair here. That's for sure.
Right. Are you still planning to go to the Philippines?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the week of Thanksgiving. I believe looking at leaving on a Monday or Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and then hopefully spending maybe 10 days or so in country is what I'm shooting for.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So that's all in the planning. I got. Yeah.
Do it next time.
You and I, let's talk a little bit between soon, actually. I actually want to book flights probably the first week of March. And I know we're getting really off topic and we'll take that offline another time, but let's talk soon about that because I want to put plans in motion very soon. So,
very cool.
We get back.
The Taiwan culture. We didn't talk anything about Taiwan culture, but Taiwan is very beautiful, but just a very beautiful country, a lot of history there. The pictures you see in the movies are true. Like that's the way it looks. The travel inside on the roads are just jam packed with people, mopeds everywhere, like so many that you can't even count. You go by people and you miss them by inches and they just go. That's just their way of life. They just know that that's what it is, and every car has a dent on it. It's like it's been hit at some point. Right. So it's really interesting on that kind of stuff of how busy they actually are there with their stuff and how their roads aren't adequate enough for what they have as far as how many people. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds hectic.
hmm
It sounds
It
very
is, but
hectic.
it's very beautiful at the same time, right? So, yeah.
So you've taken me on your journey, your professional journey here. You know, we get into obviously the years after college. At what point was there this moment that you said, "Hey," you told your mother, "Hey, I'm gonna make $1 million one year. I'm just not ready yet." At what point did you say, "Hey, I'm ready to start that journey and go out on my own and do my own thing and create a company"?
I believe it was, so after I left Marcraft, I went to a company called Tech, and I was just a network admin there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still just having a job, right? I still wasn't ambitious, but being around people in that company that I saw where you can get ambitious and what education does for you, I saw that. And so then I left there and I went to a company that was Parsec. They were it was still early. It's 2006. It was before the managed services days. It was a break fix company with backups on top of it. Did some monthly recurring stuff, and that's what they did.
Sure.
I really enjoyed the work that I was doing there because when I was at Tech and I had this company that I was working for, granted, we had 3 locations in the same town. There was a lot of employees. There was a lot of servers. We had web servers that we actually like serviced and all this stuff. We had a lot of technology there. It was still just one company, and when it was all working, you really had nothing to do, right? Like you could do some planning and some budgeting, but well, after you got done with that 2 hours of work, what do? Right? Like after you got everything planned and budgeted out, you can
Mm-hmm.
go to some meetings. And you're just waiting for something to break, right? In order to see what's going on. So I learned that I got very bored there. Went to Parsec and found out that, hey, I could do this for 50 different companies. Never be bored because there's always something breaking, right? Like it was very intriguing to me, especially on the break fix model when they didn't actually prevent anything. It was very intriguing on how that worked and how that was going forward. And so that's when I decided, like, this is what I really wanted to do. I was too, I don't know, I was too broad to like be focused on one thing. I always wanted to be learning something.
Mm-hmm.
And by keeping getting new companies and new stuff, you were always going to be learning. New technology was going to come out. You were always going to be learning. So that's what I really liked about this thing. And so I was like, this is what I want to do, but I need to learn more because I needed to learn what the business model was and all that stuff. And so I worked there until another gentleman left to start his own company, and I went and started that company with him. I wasn't a business owner, but I was the number one service guy, right? I was the one doing the servers, all the networks, and doing everything, and starting this company from scratch, building the policies I wanted to build, all this kind of stuff that I got to do on the tech side of things,
Mm-hmm.
not the sales and business aspect of it. Did that for 3 years. Didn't see eye to eye with that guy and that owner, and we left. We parted ways. Went to another company called Blue Zebra, and really I went there because I had multiple offers in less than 2 days. I had multiple offers to have a job, like with no problem at all. I didn't have any unemployment, and so I went to this company, and really I went to this company because they wanted me to sell the technology products. I was kind of getting bored with just working on them. I wanted to learn the business aspects of it. And I
Okay.
worked there for 3.5 years, and I grew the company. I ended up being the sales rep for the IT services of this. It was a copier company that wanted to try managed services, and they had been trying it for like a year before I came on.
I see.
I grew my town to have a great managed service business. Seattle didn't have such a good business model. They weren't breaking ground like we were in the Tri-Cities. In Portland, they also had a location there. Wasn't doing anything there. Spokane wasn't really doing anything there. So they had me be the salesperson that traveled to all those locations. And I started getting some things rolling. Then they changed management of the IT side, and they took a step back for a year, and I had no sales, couldn't do anything. And so it was really weird time in my life where I knew that they were paying me really well. Like they were paying me $80,000 to not sell. Like I had nothing to do. I wasn't a tech. I wasn't doing, I was planning the sales process and, going to webinars, going to service leadership webinars and like learning about how to be an MSP and how to do it correctly, doing all this stuff as a sales guy because, I was the one that was going to grow this thing when they decided they had their ducks in a row and ready to sell. Got their ducks in a row, ready to sell, sold a $17,000 a month client with Haas and everything. 2 months later, they decided they needed to let me go. Don't know why, but that's where they were.
Okay.
6 months later, they shut down that division of that company. When they let me go, I started my own company. They shut down. I took like 4 clients from them, and now I'm an MSP. And so that's what I've been doing ever since. So that's my journey of how I got to where I've been. And it's really that my jobs have taught me how to do it. And I was in those jobs for from 2003 to 2017. So it was 14 years of really being in tech jobs, right? 2006 and beyond was all in some kind of company doing outsourced IT, all the way. So 11 years of doing outsourced IT and learning how the business worked. And here we are going full-fledged. Bought another MSP in Pittsburgh, and here we are at almost $2 million a year after, just over 6 years in business. So.
No, it's amazing story, and congratulations on your success to date, and for many more years that you'll continue to grow and thrive and only build even bigger. So, when you decided to do your own, right? Like, did you have any reservations? Was there anything in there that going, I don't know, is this really the right thing to do? I guess what was going through your head at that time? Kind of run me through that a little bit.
Yeah. So there was a lot going through my head. It was like, okay. So I applied for unemployment and they just gave me unemployment. They didn't even fight me on it. So I got unemployment. I was making, about almost $3,000 a month not working. Right. So I was not working and making $3,000 a month. And I was like trying to decide if I was going to go out and get another job or if I was going to start my own company. Decided to get the business license and start my own company, and just started like pursuing that and going through those motions. And I was still living off unemployment at this time. I was still collecting it, and going through. And really, I struggled at the very beginning, like to get one client, like just to get the very first client that I was going to get. I was going out, knocking on doors, talking to everybody, talking to people that had 2 computers, to people who had 25 computers. I was talking to all of them, just like, I just need some money coming in.
Right.
I started talking, which is a different way that most MSPs don't start, is I started talking to the other MSPs in town and told them that, hey, I started my own business. I'm not coming after your business, but if you come across a client that just might be too small for you, why don't you just pass them on over to me and I'll take care of them for you, that kind of stuff. And one guy really took to it. He just started passing me all the stuff that he didn't really want to take care of anymore. And so I got all these little small clients and got a couple going, and I was making a good living, making enough to make a living, right? And then in like May of 2018, all my work has paid off. We had some friends in the area, ended up someone being a controller out of one of the local construction companies. And we talked to them, and we landed our first construction company, which was now my biggest client.
Wonderful.
But we landed it at $5,000 a month. So that was enough to pay the bills. I mean, it was still just me, right? Like that alone paid everything. Like we were good. Like everything was fine. So that's where we started. And then at that point, I had to decide, like, what was this business going to be? Was it going to be, is this business just going to be a lifestyle business to where I can just make my bills? Or was I going to actually try to grow it to, like, actually have a retirement out of it or something like that? And that's what my thoughts were. And in my mind, I was still thinking about telling my mom that, I was going to make $1 million someday. And so I was like, I'm growing this thing. That's what I'm doing. I'm growing this thing. And so yeah, is unfortunate that my mom passed away in 2009, so she didn't see any of this happen. But here we are, and this year, yeah, the company's going to bring in a top line of over $2 million this year, and we haven't. I personally don't think I've hit that $1 million mark yet. I got to bring in the bottom line of $1 million before I hit that line. That's what my goal is. So, like, the bottom line. So,
Sure.
so yeah, that's really the journey. And it just kind of fell together. I'm thankful for that copier company for putting me in service leadership with Paul Dipple and teaching me how to be an MSP the correct way, and not do a lot of break fix, even though in the very beginning I had to, just to pay the bills. But yeah, it was a journey.
Definitely. And is it obviously the Paul Dipple aspect? For those who don't know, Paul Dipple has obviously some influence and teachings based off experience in the MSP space, along with others. But you mentioned Paul Dipple, so let's go ahead and kind of go that way a little bit. Because Paul Dipple is really kind of an education piece, a coaching piece.
Right.
Being transparent. You and I obviously interact through a peer group, through a professional organization. We also share a growth coach, and you are one of our advisory board members of Current Tech Solutions. So we have some pretty open conversations, and quite frequently we talk. So let's talk a little bit about Paul Dipple aspect and the coaching aspect. I'm one firm believer in you can learn something from everyone, and none of us knows it all. And anyone that claims to know it all is full of shit. And so tell me, when it comes to education and coaching and learning from others, what kind of impact has that had on you in your business and in your professional and growth of your business? What kind of impact has that had, and what have you learned the most out of that?
What I learned the most was, like, protecting your bottom line. Really, like, that's what comes to mind. Is like, all this stuff is like, you want to get your operational maturity level according to Paul Dipple and service leadership. Which, when I started my own business, I have not subscribed to any of his stuff. I felt like I went through it for 2 years, and I didn't need to be a part of it anymore.
You kind of had the basis.
Not that I learned all that I needed to learn. I'm sure there's more to learn in that. But I went on to other things that I could actually afford, because when I first started my business, I couldn't afford to be a part of a group like that. Like, it just didn't make sense. So that's what I learned from him, is that really protecting the bottom line, and that I couldn't come in as an MSP and start my business from scratch with just me, right? And be at operational maturity level 5. Like, I can't just go out and sell top line MSP stuff with hardware as a service, and here I'm going to give you the best support ever, and you buy that for $18,000 a month, and it's only me. I'm going to support you with that. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if you look from the consumer side of it, the client side of it, like, they're not going to believe you. Like, oh, how many people you got on your team? Oh, it's just me. Like, oh, well, I'm not going to buy you for $17,000 a month. I can go hire somebody for that, right? So what he really taught me is that I had to start at, like, I didn't want to start at 1 or 2, because that's where you're losing money. You really don't know what you're doing yet. I was at the level where I could start at, like, 3. Like, I could be here. I could have good value. My pricing was going to be what I was going to win with, because I didn't have employees. I didn't have overhead, right? So that's how I was going to get my foot in the door. Now, does that mean I was going to stay at 3 forever? No, but that meant that I was going to, but I was also, my pricing was going to be at a point where I was actually making money, right? I wasn't losing money for bringing on a client. So I was smart about it in that way. And then over the years, I have moved up. Do I think I'm at 5 yet? I don't even think I'm at 5 yet, according to their operation maturity level. I still have some break fix clients. I still do some other things. Um, do I want to be at 5? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if that really matters. That's like you can't have a one size fits all solution. We know that from our clients. So I don't think an operation maturity level 5 is right for every client, right? Like we have to be able to offer like a 4 to some clients, right? And that just makes sense. But that's me. I'm kind of like you, Mark, where I like to give back. Like when I'm going out and getting a client, I'm seeing what they're not getting, and I want to give that to them. I want to provide them with what they're supposed to be getting, and yet I don't want to like, okay, you're not getting that, so I'm going to be $2,000 more than the other MSP that was in there already. Because I'm better than that. It's like, no, I'm going to look at my bottom line. I'm going to price it accordingly to what I want to make out of you. Make sure that we're priced correctly according to our peer group and our financial peer group of TBG. Making sure we're making that dollar figure that we want to make. Now, in the future, is it going to raise? Yeah, as we grow this relationship and as we do things, the cost of living is going to go up. My pricing is going to go up. My percentage is going to go up a little more than the pricing. I mean, that's just the way it goes. That's business. But it's all about building that relationship and making sure that you're both a good fit. I've also fired clients. So, and mostly because of the way they treat my techs. If they're not nice people, I don't want to do business with them. So
yeah. Relationships are everything. And yes, doing business is important. That we're doing business with people that we like. They want. It's no different than a marriage. If it's not a good relationship, then why are we in this, right? It's got to work for both parties. I'm a firm believer and truly believe that we bring more value than what our invoices do, right? As far as when it comes to dollars and cents, always exceeding the value of what they're paying us, delivering more. We always bring more value. And that's just something that I take pride in. It's something that's meaningful to me. I'm a giver, number one. Now, obviously, we have to give and still be in business and make money, right? We're in this we can't grow and be better and be bigger and do more and have a bigger team and more skilled team to be able to offer these services without that. But no, I can appreciate that. And, the maturity operational level, we're all at different stages of that. Sometimes maybe we take a step back and reassess and then push forward again. When you were talking about the early days, it sounded like from a sales aspect, you struggled with being that one guy in a sense, right? And you couldn't be taken serious because, well, it's just you. For most of us, I believe we've all been there. It wasn't too long ago I found myself back there. So, but also in the businesses you and I are in today, there's a lot of things that allow us to do so much more than in years past what one person could do. Right, and be it the tool sets, be it SOX, be it NOx, be it all these other things that we have at our disposal, allows us to have hundreds, if not thousands, of resources available to us to provide those valuable services to our clients. Besides the sales struggle at the small size, what other struggle might you have had or found that you wasn't expecting in the beginning years? Obviously, you're six years into this. Let's say year 1 through 3.
Right, like 1 through 3, it was really when I started hiring people, like the first people that I hired, My first technician, he was great. I brought him on. He was working. He was going through some things. I was teaching him how to be a good technician and moving him through. He was very personable. And this is 2000, late 2019 is when I first brought on my first tech. Like maybe mid 2019, like June, July time period of 2019. So I brought him on, worked great for 6, 7, 8 months. It was great. And then the pandemic hit, right? Like, so things happened and I was unsure about what business was going to happen, what was going to happen to my business. I didn't know if a lot of my businesses were going to shut down or not. I was very heavily into dentists and I was very heavily into construction companies, and I didn't know if they were going to be shut down or not. And so I was like worried about like just not having any income coming in.
Sure.
So I put my one technician on furlough and like go collect the money from the government because they're paying you to not work and you'll be able to come back with no problem. And so we did that, and then we found out that our companies were still going to be working. Even the dentists were only shut down for like 2 weeks. I mean, they weren't shut down that long. And so most of our companies were still fine and still going to be paying us. The only company that had a struggle was the golf course, the public golf course that was shut down. But other than that, the rest of them were good. And so I was like, I need you back. And he's like, I can't afford to come back because now I got to put my kids in daycare because, they don't have, I like all the stuff, all of his payments that he'd have to do because like the daycares were still shut down. He couldn't do that. So like his wife had to not work and all that stuff. So it ended up being a struggle just to get him to come back to work. I was like, all right, so now what do I do? Eventually I did get him to come back to work. And he was working from home a lot, and he always worked from home, but like he was working from home a lot, but like I saw the production drop off because there was distractions because there was more people at home and all this stuff. And then we just had some other things go on, and I ended up having to let him go because of, he was saying he started his day at 7 a.m. and then like his computer wouldn't even turn on until 8, but he started his day at 7 a.m. And so like I just ended up like, gotta let you go. And so I did, and I hated it because he's a friend of mine, still is. But like it was just a business decision, right? And then the next thing that happened was the struggle to find another good technician, right? Like I went through 3 really, really bad technicians before I found a good one again, right? So like I hired one that said he had the skills, and I found out that he was unemployed for a reason, right? Like he had his own set ways and he didn't want to listen. And I was like, you got to go. And when he was with me, we hired another help desk guy, and the guy just had no skills and no personality, and he had to go. And so then we hired another guy that we thought had the skills and had the thing. And then he came in for like 3 weeks and he goes, oh, I forgot how much I hate this. Then I got to quit.
And geez.
So I went over a period where I had a technician and I had a lot of work to do. And then I had like a technician that was bad, and then another one that was bad, and then another one. And then we still had all this work to do. And it was just me. It was down to just me, and this time it's 2021, by the time I get through all those people. And my company's like, you don't have $1 million a year, and it's just me, and I'm like, I need help. Yeah. And that's what I had to struggle with, and finally found some good help. Now my training regimen is way better than it was. I have to thank some of the people in our peer group for helping get that straightened out and getting that going. Yeah. And then from there, that was the biggest struggle for me, for my company. Like, we always have did I choose the right vendor? Do we have billing issues? Yes, we have that. That's just business, right? Sure. But the struggle was finding that first technician. Now I have a team of 8, soon to be 7 again, but 8 right now. And then soon to be 10 because I'm going to hire 2 more to replace them. So it's fine. I don't have to worry about going back to being just me, right? Like I just have to go out, find the right people, train them. If they work out, they work out. If they don't, we get rid of them quickly. It's hire slowly and fire quickly if they're not the right fit, right? So that's been the struggle, just finding people. And now after the pandemic, finding people that actually want to work.
Right.
Some of them just seem like they just want to collect a paycheck but not actually work. So so that's been a struggle.
Understand
Finding
that.
people in the Philippines has been great because they want to work, they want to help. They're a giving society. It's great. So as you know, so
Yes, I know.
that was really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have some phenomenal team members in the Philippines. I can't say enough good things about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that keeping the costs down but yet still providing and giving them a higher than average wage for their location is great, but keeping our costs down because we're not paying all the other things on it. So
right.
It works well.
Paul, I'm going to steer this a little bit in a direction. I know the struggles of staff, right? Of being an employer and dealing with people and people have problems and, we know some don't work out and some work better than others. And you not only went through this, the struggle of people and building your business and growing, you went through and you acquired another company, you made an acquisition, which had basically double the size of your company based off of my knowledge of you. But during all this time, you also had some personal struggles that you've been dealing with when it comes to your significant other in your life, right? This is an ongoing thing. You built a house during all this the same time, surgeries, medical things, but yet you always have a smile on your face and you've always got that amazing laugh. How do you do it? Just share that with me and share it with our listeners. Like, how do you manage to keep it light like you do? Because you go through some serious stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, every day is really just a blessing, really, right? Like we're here on this earth and we get to experience things that are going on. The material things don't matter much. The things that are stressful are, like you say, Shelley's medical things that she has going on and stuff like that. That's the stuff that makes me worried, right? Because that's actually life, right? That's not material thing. Like a house, I can build another house. A job, I can get another job. If my business goes out of business tomorrow, I'm still on the earth and I'm still going to be fine, right? As long as you have the will to go do something, you can get it done, right? And so that's always been my attitude, and I just have fun with it, right? So we struggle. So today my longest tenured technician turned in his resignation today. Like 2 weeks from now, like my guy that's been with me with the company, the company that I bought, he's been with them for 11 years, longer than my company's been in business. He's been working for this company in some form or fashion. He's got some personal health issues in his family. His mother-in-law's having some things, and he's got some things going on. And he was only able to put in 25 hours a week now. It was going to get less, and he just decided it wasn't fair to either one of us to do that way, and he wanted to focus on other things. So he's moving on, and he's probably not even getting another job. He's probably just going to be home and doing some education stuff. It's tough, it's tough. And I got to replace that guy. Well, here we go. It's fine. It's just another thing, it's another hurdle. It's another thing to learn on. Everything that is a thing is something to learn on, something to get better with, right? So it's fine. It'll be fine. We'll move on. Not only will I learn, but all the people around me will learn. Like, because now he's got to pass all his knowledge on in the next few weeks of everything he knows about everybody, right? So all those people are going to be better for it, right? It's a learning thing. Now, are they going to get all the knowledge? No. Guess when they're going to get the knowledge? Well, when that thing pops up again, we got to figure it out. They'll learn it. It'll be fine. We'll get by it. It's fine. I mean, it's just life. People have things going on, and the personal aspect of it is more important than the business aspect of it, right? So that's how I always look at it. As long as my health is good, I'm going to have a smile on my face. Now, when I'm not healthy, maybe I won't be so smiley, but
so how do you juggle that? How do you juggle that personal aspect, right? You said Shelley's medical aspects and things like, I know just recently you took a journey up north, Seattle, I think you said, correct? You know, with the business being pulling you in one direction and obviously Shelley and her needs pulling you in another direction, you know, how are you managing that? And what is your, I guess, what is your coping mechanism?
So when I acquired the other company, I decided I was going to delegate every IT aspect of it. So like, because of things like this, right? Like if she has something going on and we just have to do it, I didn't want our customers to suffer for that, right? Like maybe the sales will suffer, right? We won't get sales in. That doesn't hurt the company. You know, that doesn't grow the company, but that doesn't hurt the company.
Just puts it on pause.
I delegated all the IT aspect out. Like I don't do any of it. Like I refuse to do it. People ask me and I just like, no, figure it out, you know, and let me know, come up with a better question than how do you do this? You like get specific about something and I will let you know, but like, don't ask me to do it for you and just tell you how. So I did that really quickly when I got this other company, because I figured I had guys that had longevity in their careers. They were going to have a lot of knowledge on themselves and the team could ask them, right? And so I just stepped back and stepped out of the IT role, stepped into the business management role, which there was a lot to do there. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of integrations going on. I had a lot to do on that side of it when purchasing another company, which meant that it was a good reason for me not to do IT work. And so that's what happened. And ever since, I just don't touch it. I just don't, you know, I do get questions once in a great while. Sure. I look in on things after hours and make sure they're getting things done right. You know, sure, I do that, but that's because I want to, you know, it's not because I have to. And so that's how I balance it really is delegation. And the more you can delegate, really find the people that can do that job better than you can do it. And if you can find that person, your business is going to grow because of it. Right. And so that's always been my attitude is find someone that can do that job better than me. And I will hire you to do that job. Right. Like, that's what I want, you know. If you want my job, come get it.
So delegation is great. You know, once again, you know, I think we all have been stuck in that spot and maybe sometimes don't want to let go some of those things or whatever our reasons are. I know personally that obviously I've grown a lot in just the past couple years when it comes to delegation and letting things go. And also at the same time, you know, you mentioned people that can do it better than you. In my case, maybe on some aspects or other aspects, it was about, you know, helping to grow them and teaching them those things, and let them just run with it, right? You know, passing that torch. And
I was kind of saying the same thing with the IT side. I was like, they're not going to do it as good as me. They're asking me questions, you know. Yeah, I could fix that thing in 5 minutes. Yeah, it might take them 45 minutes, but they still fixed it. They'll still have a sense of pride in that, right?
Sure.
And so I had to choose whether I wanted it done quickly, or if I wanted it to be done slowly, but someone learning from it, right? And every time they do it, they're going to get better and faster and better and faster, and pretty soon. Today, I believe all my techs that are with me can do it almost as fast as I can do it. Like,
wonderful.
Just take care of that now. You know, I don't have to worry about it, and that's because I was hands off and let them learn. You know, if I show them too much, they're going to be relied on being shown. And I want them to figure it out, document it, put it in IT glue. You know, if you do it, document it. That's our rule, right? Like if you do it, document it. If you didn't find it in there, you document it afterwards, right? So we document everything. So it's really good on that side of things. But yeah, and just keeps getting better.
So another one of those aspects, I guess, too, at least in my team at times, it'd be like, come to me with an option A and B, right? Come to me with what you think we should do, and let's discuss that aspect, right? Get some thinking involved, get some planning, what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And then let's discuss that. Just don't come to me for the answer, right? Come to me with a potential resolution, and let's explore those.
Yeah, I want you to come to me and just I want the first words out of your mouth to be, "Am I on the right track with doing blah 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 blah?"
Sure,
that's what I want to hear, right? And then I can say yes or no, or maybe you should do this thing, and maybe look at this, and let them go figure it out. Yeah.
So, as time, the foot is on the accelerator and it's flying by. And I want to touch on something that to me is very, very interesting and kind of fun at the same time. So I mentioned some lyrics in a sense in your introduction, but tell me about how in the world you got involved or that had this desire to play professional poker. And, when I first met you and heard about like how you were ranked and like, what? Like, what is, tell me about this. Tell me more.
Right. So in my hometown here, we had some buddies get together and we decided we were just going to do a poker league. So we do poker league like everybody else and, play poker every Saturday night or whatever we were doing at the time. And we would just play. Right. And then one year, probably in about 2000, I know the first year that I went down the World Series is 2009. So that was the first year we did it. We decided that we were going to do like a 15-week league, and that was the first year that the World Series of Poker had their cheapest event at the time, which was $1,000. And so we were like, okay, we're gonna give away as many $1,000 seats as we can, and we'll all go down as a group and play in this $1,000 World Series of Poker event, right? And so we played the league, and we all did what we did. I actually never won a seat, so I never got my seat paid for, but I went down and I just bought into the tournament anyhow. Because anybody can buy into the World Series of Poker, right? So we had like 6 people that had a seat, and they went down there and they bought into the World Series of Poker. I bought a seat, and then we all played. Out of everybody, this was the first time they had $1,000 event. There was no rebuys, none of that stuff that they do today. And they had over 6,000 people in this event. It was the biggest tournament they had besides the main event as far as number of people in it that they've ever had.
6,000 attendees playing poker.
6,000 attendees playing poker, yeah. Yeah, and so, and there's other things going on at the same time too. That's not like the only event going on. So we bought into this and we all played it. One by one, all my friends bust out, all this kind of stuff. Remember, I'm the one that didn't win the seat.
Right.
So there's 2 of us that make it to day 2. I make it to day 2. This other guy makes it to day 2 with like a quarter of my stack. We still have like 2 hours to play before we actually make the money. And when you make the money at this time, it was 10% of the field. So you went from 6,000 to 600, right? And so you beat out 5,400 people just to make the money. All right, and we had about 2 hours to go before we make this point. I'm sitting there playing. I'm like third in chips in my table. And so I played. I remember this because it's a bad beat story, and poker players remember bad beat stories. And I try not to tell them, but this is the one that got me hooked on poker. So I got to tell it. So sitting there, we make the money, right? We make the money, 2 hands go by. I get pocket aces. The guy that's been the chip leader at our table raises. If people know poker, I'll tell you, it's 1,000, 2,000 with an ante of. At this time, they didn't have big blind ante, but they had an ante going around. So it's like, I don't know what the ante was. I think 200. So you had like 5,000 in the pot in the middle that you were playing for. He makes it 5,000. I'm on the button and I look down at aces and I was like, I'm just going to call him because earlier I raised him with aces. He folded and I didn't want to let him get away again. So I was like, I'm just going to call him. And so the two blinds fold. And so it's just me and him in this pot. And then the flop came out king, queen, 6 or something like that, like some little number. And he just, so there's now like 15,000 in the pot. I've got like 40,000 behind. He's got like 70,000 in his chip stat. So he's got me covered. He just shoves all in for all the chips. And I'm like,
Oh my
that
goodness.
is weird. Yeah. So I was like, that's weird. I could see a bet of 5,000. I can even say a bet of 15,000, like chips, pot size bet. But he just like jams all in.
70,000
And I
in.
was like, yeah. And I looked at him and I just thought for a minute. And I was like, oh, I know what you have. You have ace king, right? I have aces. You have ace king. You have 2 outs because you wouldn't do this with a set. You wouldn't do this with 2 pair. You would do this with exactly ace king. I get it. I call. Flip over. I have aces. He has ace king. And so I called out his hand. I was like, I knew exactly what he had. Very next card's a king and busts me out of the tournament. So he got lucky and he hit his 2 outer and busted me out of the tournament. And so that's how I went out of the tournament with a min cash in my first time down there, right? And so that's what got me hooked. And then so every year from 2009 to 2013, I went back to the World Series of Poker every year to play. We were running our league.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the years I won a seat, some of the years I didn't. I played in more than one event sometimes, all that kind of stuff happened. And then 2014 and 15, I don't know why I didn't play, but I didn't. And I didn't really play again until 2019. Just got busy, right? Like with work, started my company in 2017.
Sure.
In 2019, I finally was making decent enough money. DattoCon was in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, let's drive down. It was in June, which is when the World Series of Poker is going on.
Okay.
So I was like, well, let's drive down. So Shelly and I got in the car. We drove down, stopped in Vegas. Her family at the time was still living in Phoenix. So we stopped in Vegas. I played in a tournament. I busted out. I played another tournament. I made the money. Then I played in this third tournament, which was a $600 buy-in for the World Series of Poker. It ended up having, again, it had like 6,600 people in it. Right. So I played for 2 days in this tournament and I finished in 39th for my $600 and I made $8,800 in this tournament, in the one tournament. So pretty much that's paying for the trip. Right.
Right.
So we go down, we visit family in Phoenix, we go to DattoCon. Okay. We come back up and I was like, well, I want to play in the world. I want to play one more event. I got money. I won money. So I want to play one more event. The what was it? I think the Millionaire Maker, which was guaranteed $1 million for first place, right? So that's why it was called the Millionaire Maker.
Okay.
It was a 3-day tournament. No, a 5-day tournament.
Oh my goodness.
Right? And so I played in that, made day 2, played at this cash area for a little bit. That table broke. And I went and sat next to the 2009 World Series of Poker champion, Joe Cata, and played poker with him to my right for 6 hours straight, right, in this tournament. So I played with him the whole time, and we had a good conversations, and all this stuff was kind of cool. So that was a very good feeling. Millionaire Maker, I bought him for, I think it was $1,500, cashed out for $2,700 on day 2. Because we made the money on day 2. And I busted with him to my right still. He was still in, but yeah. So that was fun. And that was the last time I played in the World Series so far. I haven't been back since. Been too busy. Always seem to have a trip in June that doesn't coincide with getting back there.
Okay.
My next goal is to play in the main event. I've never played in the main event. So I want to buy in for $10,000 and see if I can win the $8 million that it's guaranteed at top now, or whatever it is.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's my next goal, and I've always done it. I've always played in that. There's a local series around here at Wild Horse that plays, and I've done a few things there. If you look and everybody looks at my history, yeah, I'm on there. I haven't cashed for that much compared to some other people, but I'm on there. It's over $25,000 in winnings or something like that.
Hey, that's something that I know that I can't claim, and I don't know anyone else in my life that can claim that but you. So that's really cool. And you've got that, in a sense, kind of a hobby and that fun thing to do that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I could imagine 6 hours playing, that's a bit. And I'm sure that time probably flies by when you're into the game.
Oh,
but
well, these tournaments start at noon and end at midnight. So day one is 12 hours.
12 hours.
So I just played 6 hours in the same seat next to Joe Cata. Sometimes you get moved around, all that kind of stuff. So no, I played for 6 hours right next to him. And there's other famous people I played with and all that stuff, but I've never played sitting right next to them like that, to where I got to actually know them like I did that day. So that was pretty cool.
So, but sort of the ranking and sort of the excitement and bringing home some money, what do you feel is the most rewarding thing for you when it comes to playing poker at that level?
It's a game, right? It's just like anything in life. Like I'm competitive, right?
Okay.
And it's a game that I'm like competing at, and it's my thoughts against your thoughts. Can I outwit you?
Mm-hmm.
It's not always about the cards, right? Like if you ever play poker with me, like half the time I don't have it, and everybody knows that, but that's the problem, because the other half of the time I do, right? And so it's really fun to me to just mess with people on their thought process. I flip over cards when other people say you shouldn't flip over cards more than they should, just so that I know that how I'm going to play differently the next time I'm in a pot with anybody that was at that table, not just that person. Like I'm flipping over that card, everybody gets to see it, right? So it's not just I showing that guy that I outplayed him, right? I'm showing the whole table that I did, so that the next time, when I do that, they're thinking I do the same thing, but no, this time I have it, right? So, so it's really weird on how I play, because if you go by the book, I don't play by the book. Like if there's a poker book out there, there's a lot of them. I've read them all. I play some styles of some of them.
Okay.
Do I play optimal poker? No. And you know why I don't play optimal poker? Because people I play against don't play optimal poker. Now, if I was playing a $10,000 or $100,000 buy-in event, yes, I'm going to play optimal poker, because they're as good as I am and they know how to deceive me just as well as I know how to deceive them. I'm not going to flip over a card, right? But if I'm playing in these lower end events and I can assess who I'm playing against, yeah, I do it, and I enjoy it. I enjoy that aspect of it. The other thing that I get out of poker is that it clears my mind, because I can't be thinking about poker and everything that I'm doing in that aspect of it, because I am reading everybody at the table. My mind is just intense into poker when I play.
Mm-hmm.
Not when I play with buddies at home, but when I play in a serious tournament, that it totally clears my mind. I don't think of my business. Shelly gets mad because I don't think of her. I'm thinking of what I'm doing at this time, at this moment, right? And it just really lets me focus on something that I enjoy doing, and then outplaying people, right? Like, and trying to outplay people. Yeah. Sometimes I outplay myself. I make a move and oops, that happens.
So the competitiveness, the mental game.
I go away laughing no matter what. If I win or lose, I'm always with a smile on my face. It was fun. It was a good time. It was fine. Right now, some people like going down the World Series of Poker and putting $1,000 on the line to play a game. It's like, right. They don't see the value in that, but that tournament, if I would have won that tournament that year, that $1,000 would have been $500,000. that I could have won.
That's a nice
Right.
payday.
So that's the aspect of it. It's not really, to me, it's not really gambling, although it is, but it's not really gambling because I don't care about the $1,000. I care about the competition. Now, when I get in the money, I start caring about the money. I start caring about the competition. And as you get closer and closer, the competition gets better. So that all is fun to me. It's like it's how the competition changes as the tournament goes. In the beginning, you got a lot of people that don't know how to play, but they have a lot of money. And then in the end, you have all the people that know how to play and they have a lot of money. Right. So, or some that don't, but they know how to play. Right. So that's the aspect that I really enjoy is how that game evolves as it gets closer to the money and all that stuff. So.
No, very cool. We talk about perceived value. We all value things differently, right, in life. And as your aspect, as far as the poker, and you perceive that differently than I might perceive it and someone else. But to have that outlet to be able to shut off the world and focus on the poker and forget about everything else. Plus, you said you like the challenge, you like the mental game, you like to be competitive, like to outthink, and that sounds really cool. And once again, though maybe not for somebody like me because I'm just don't have the skill set. No, but no, very cool.
I used to track my poker. I haven't tracked it this year, but like back in 2019 when I played, and won all that money, I tracked my poker, like every little dime that I put in and everything. Yeah. I won more than I lost, so in the end it was a profitable hobby.
Yeah. A lot of us have hobbies that they always cost us more than anything, right? They just strictly just cost us. And in this case,
it's a hobby that you can do without actually purchasing something to go do, right? Like all you have to do is buy into the game. You have to buy in, but that's it. You don't need cards. You don't need anything. You just need to show up and buy in. You don't have to buy a go-kart.
Right.
Have a hobby.
A parachute. You don't have to buy. Yeah. You don't have to buy shoes. You don't have to buy whatever ours. You don't have to buy fins.
You don't have to buy a boat.
Well, you'd like to buy. We like the boats, right? But
I'm going to buy a boat.
Well, Paul, as we kind of bring this home, I kind of one final question for you to bring this home for us and that would be, what advice would you give your past self? What's one bit of advice you would give your past self?
Ooh, that's a good question.
No pressure.
I would say the biggest advice I would give my past self is to be more picky on the things that you are deciding on. Like I did a lot of things where I just like, yeah, that sounds good, do it. I did it really quickly. I wouldn't give my advice to like perfect it before doing it. I don't think that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying research it a little more before doing it. Vet the person a little more before hiring them. Some of that stuff would have not bit me in the butt if I would have just like researched a little more before pulling the trigger.
Okay.
In the early days, I used to just that like looks like a great tool. Let's do it. And you just buy it and go, right? And was it a good tool? Yeah, sometimes, other times not so much, and we've all done it.
Sure.
Right. So my advice would be to buy a little slower, implement faster and buy slower.
Well, and I know that personally, sometimes, if you get into that mode, if you overthink it or over research, end up kind of, as I say, paralysis by analysis, right? And sometimes, action is just everything and makes the difference. So kind of finding that middle ground between knee jerking and paralysis. So.
Yeah. I never overanalyze. That's one thing. So I always had that. And then the tech tribe taught me, done is better than perfect. So just get it out there. But as far as things that I am purchasing, I would like to have vetted longer than I did, things that I'm getting done. I think I do a pretty good job of just getting them done, getting them out there, getting them moving. Some of that stuff's good. Some of that stuff, I procrastinate on some things like all of us do. Sometimes we just get busy and don't stay focused. But yeah, there's a lot of mistakes I made when I was purchasing something that wasn't quite right, or hiring somebody that wasn't quite right, that I just said do it, and then I wish I wouldn't have after the fact. So, but that happens.
I think that's really solid advice, not only for your past self, but for others, and including myself. I appreciate that insight. Paul, thank you. Thank you for coming today, being a guest and sharing your story with others. I wish you much success in the future. I know you are going to continue to build and grow and do great things. And until next time, I'm Marc Thomas. We'll see you.